friends, Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa String Works workshop. Looky, 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 looky. Isn't this cool? Oh my goodness, isn't that cool? Yeah, this is a beauty. See if we can let you see the label in there. Get the light just right. It's hard to tell if you're seeing the good part of the label or not. But anyway, this is a 1924 Gibson F4 is what it is. Reasonably original. The bridge, parts of it look like they're original, but I can't guarantee that bridge is original. As a matter of fact, I'd say it's not. It's an old bridge, it's not a new bridge, but I doubt it's original to this mandolin, and the reason I doubt that is because they generally had a type of hole in there somewhere so that you could put a pickguard on here and have the little tang go through it, where the pickguard would go through that little hole. Anyway, it's hard to explain. This one is in for a setup, but it's in primarily to do just that, put a pickguard on it. The customer bought this guitar without the pickguard, and he found online this pickguard, which is off of an earlier mandolin. I think it's maybe even 10 years earlier, roughly. And I don't remember. He told me, but I don't remember. I can tell you we've got a few challenges. As I mentioned, this has got that point coming out here that would normally go through the bridge. This one isn't made for that. This has got the 2 points here that would go in under the neck right here. This one already has 1 point in under the neck there. You know, I want to do this with the least amount of alteration possible to the instrument and even to the pickguard, for that matter. But, you know, something's got to give somewhere. You can't do it all. You know what I mean? I mean, I can't just wave a magic wand and have it just look original. That's not going to happen. But I'm going to try the best I can to keep this as original as looking as I can. And that's all I can promise, because, you know, it is what it is. We don't have the right stuff here to make it perfect. We have stuff that's going to be close, and that's about as good as you can do when you've got something that's just close. Well maintained instrument, the back and the sides all look like they're original and still together. I don't see any places where it's come apart. I say that, and having said that, then I notice right here doesn't quite match up right there. There's a little lip there. I don't know if that's loose, and it might just be that it's loose, and maybe the tail's pulling that out. When we get the strings off of it, we'll look at that. The frets are worn a little bit, but we're just going to do a light setup and put the pickguard on it. That's all we're going to do. So here we go. Before we get into the setup on this mandolin, let's take a look inside. This one has a special feature called a Verzi tone producer. And we're going to go down in with our little inside camera, and you can see the tone producer hanging there. It's a round disc is what it amounts to, and it hangs from the top of the mandolin. You can see the words there. I'll let you read that. And the tone producer is made out of spruce also, I believe, and we're going underneath it first. This is way underneath it, so we're between the back and the tone producer. If you look up, you can see what looks similar to F-holes cut in it, and they're cut on both sides, but it's very hard to manipulate the camera at this point, so you get what you get here, unfortunately, because there's not much room, and the camera is fairly long in itself. So I was able to get it angled up just a little bit so you could see what the producer looks like from the bottom side. Now we're going to go back up and go over the top of it. Now you can see there, that's how it's hanging from the top of the mandolin. So the picture's not the greatest, but that's the best we can do with short notice. So there's the other post back there hanging that you can see. Just thought you'd like to see that. The customer wanted me to do a lot to this. One thing he says, I don't want you to touch up any of the wear. He wants it to stay just like it is. He says polish and wax is okay, but no dye or lacquer. He wanted me to look at the tuning keys, and he said I could replace the bridge if I thought it was necessary. In other words, to mount this if that was necessary, and we'll look into that. I'm not really sure where we're going with that yet. The customer asked me to replace the plastic end pin with an ebony end pin, and when I looked at it I thought, you know, I think that is ebony, believe it or not, and sure enough, when I pull it out, it is definitely ebony wood. It's very easy to tell once you get it out of there. It's polished so highly and everything, and the wood is so hard, it does look like plastic, but it is definitely ebony. Okay, first thing we're gonna do is just do a light fret job, and I say light, I mean we do as much as we have to do. There are some fairly good grooves in here. You can feel them with your fingernail, but they're not real deep. This does have the real tiny frets on it, which I like. I'm just checking it first lightly like this to see where I can feel grabbing, and I feel a little bit of grabbing right in here. Overall, it's pretty good though. Just looking to see about the pickguard to see how well it looks like it's going to line up. It's going to be a trick. It really is. With the bridge sitting approximately where it goes, and we set this up here approximately where it goes, starting to look at that, trying to decide if there's some way I can make this hole in this bridge to hold the end of this. I would kind of like to do that and just use the bridge that he's got. It looks like it might work as long as it's not in line. I'm concerned that it might be in line with the adjuster there. And if it's not in line with the adjuster where we can drill a hole, then I think we're good. I was thinking I would be better off to fit this up without the strings on it, but in this case I do think I'm going to have to string it up so I know where this bridge really belongs and then see how it all fits up. There's lots of little spots on this finish. They look like they've been, maybe they're sweat spots and drip down on it. I don't know. But we're going to try to clean that up a little bit before we put this all back together. He doesn't want any stain or varnish or anything like that on there, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But I'm sure that these spots, whatever they are, detract from the value of the instrument. They're not adding value. So we're going to see if we can get rid of those. And you always start with the simplest thing, and I'm going to just take some warm soapy water and just see, like with just barely dampening this, to see if we can get any of that to come off without affecting the finish at all. I've got some warm water here with some dish soap in it, and I'm just going to lightly touch them and see if those are coming off. And I would have to say they look like they've permanently affected the finish to me. I don't see them coming off. That's kind of sad. I wish they would come off, but they don't look like they're coming off, and they're all over the place. Yeah, some of them do kind of look like they're coming off a little bit, but what I think it is that they're like, you can actually feel them. They're proud of the surface, and after they come off, they're smooth with the surface. You don't feel them anymore. So I think they've, left their mark on the surface, but they are coming off. So we're going to clean this up best we can. That really does look good now. I think you can see, maybe you can see the difference. Here's the side we waxed, there's the side we haven't, and I think it shows up pretty plainly. And it's really cleaned up a lot of the spots. Those spots actually, I guess because they probably were sweat, the salt in there actually did eat into the finish a little bit. So let that be a lesson to you. If you see spots on your instrument from sweat, get them off of there, because you can tell they actually did etch the finish a little bit in places. Not everywhere, but in places it did. Okay, so that's looking real good. Let's just put a little more of that wax in the areas over here. Again, I'm careful. I don't want wax where this is bare wood. And the reason is because it will coat that wood, and then if you ever decide to stain it or something later, you can't do anything with it. This wax will not let the stain adhere. So I'm really careful where I'm putting this. I'm only putting it in the big painted open areas. Okay, and then if you look at the fretboard now, maybe you can see where the oil's starting to wick its way back out, like right here. In a few places it will wick back out. So you always have to wipe the oil back down again. And then after that, you're pretty much finished. It's pretty stable after that. Okay, let's start putting the strings back on it and see where we ended up here. My guess is that these GHS silk and bronze strings are going to be the perfect match for this mandolin. I'm not going to lie to you, I've never put them on a particular mandolin just like this, but I think they'll make this mandolin sound awesome. So that's what we're going to put on here. I will tell you that the pegs just barely protrude through the peg head on this. You can see they're really down deep in there, and the hole's real close to the peg head. So it's difficult to put strings on this. You can't put many windings, that's for sure. As I begin to string this up, I remember the customer asked me to look at these tuning keys. And one of the things I'm big on is keeping them oiled and lubricated, and you can tell there's already grease on there. These actually have gear grease or something on there, very light coating of grease. So there's very little you can do with something like that if it's already got the grease on there. So I don't see anything that we can really do to improve these tuning keys. They look fine to me. The main thing is you have to be sure that you're tuning up to the note. You can never tune down because there's so much backlash in the tuning keys. I mentioned already that these posts are very short. In fact, they're so short on this, like this E string, it's so far down in there that you really can't wind it down the post like you normally would. The hole is actually about level with the top of the peg head. So when you start winding, they just naturally are going to go above. And that's not the way I like to wind them, but unfortunately, that's about all you can do. You can't get the strings to go down below, down through the, you'd be down below the surface, and it just doesn't work that way very well. So, I've never seen that before on an old Gibson like this, but now I guess I've seen everything. Now that we have it strung up, we're going to just tune up the outside two strings, just the top G and the bottom E, just to get a close intonation so that we can begin to figure out where this pickguard is going to have to go. Pretty close. So we're going to call that good enough for mounting the pickguard. Like I mentioned, this is not a simple job here. Unfortunately, it looks like the pin that would normally mount through here, now that we have it all set up, is going to go past. This little pin right down in here is actually on the wrong side even. It's over here on the other side of the adjuster. So that tells me we're going to have to back up 50 and punt. Actually, what we might be able to do is more or less ignore it and let it just stick through. It just happens to fit in the slot between the saddle and the bridge. So what we might be able to do is literally just kind of ignore it and just let it lay in that area. It's a possibility it'll buzz. It's a possibility it'll vibrate. But I'd say that possibility exists even if you had a hole. So very difficult install here. I got to tell you, this is not a easy install. There's several problems really. These pins that are on here, they're actually nails. They literally are nails that have been clipped off. Now I don't know if those are original or not. I'm getting the impression they're not, because I don't remember ever seeing that before this way. Really am getting the impression these are not original pins. This one, the bad thing about this one is I can tell by looking, this one's pretty much perpendicular. Maybe a very slight angle this way. This one's got quite a bit of an angle this way. So that's not good either, and you can't go bending on that inside that plastic. There's just no way that's going to happen. The other issue is this big pin that's right here right now. And I can't see any way. Oh, that big pin just pulled out. Look how long and big that pin is. That'll give you some idea. That literally just pulled out by my fingers. I didn't have to use any force at all. That surprised me. And these don't line up to that hole. Let's just make sure of that, but I don't think they do. Well, they could, but then this end here is going to be flopping loose. It's not going to be inside the bridge, which is where I would like to have it, because that's where it normally goes. It's just not simple. This appears to be a nail too that was embedded in there. It's got a little hook on the end of it there that I don't believe is supposed to be there. I gotta tell you, friends, this is kind of a mind puzzler here on how to go about it, because I don't really want to make too many alterations to this mandolin. I really do think this is going to ride in this area. I think worst case is this was going to ride in this area. If we have to, we could pad this with leather on both sides somehow, and put the leather in there and let the leather ride in there if we have to. So I'm not going to worry about this end too much. It looks like it's going to fit where I need it to fit. This end here, on the other hand, with the crooked mounts, it's kind of giving me gas pains, I gotta tell you. I'm gonna try to tighten this up here so that I know it's pretty close. And then I'm gonna have to hold that still and mark with a pencil where these are gonna go here on the side of the fretboard. And the problem is I've got to drill this one at a very slight angle like this. So it's from there, you know, I'm just going to use this to line up the drill. Otherwise it's not going to work. So I'm going to put a little mark right here with pencil. And then that way I can line up my drill bit for this one. This one's closer to right here. So I'm going to line up the drill bit right here on this one. Now we have to decide what size holes these are. And we have our trusty little measuring device for that we can be very accurate, and we'll get a very accurate drill bit for this. It is, well, I say we can be very accurate, but I'm getting different readings every time I go on it. And I think it's because it's been clenched before. Bummer. Let me just go off the end here. I'm getting 65 thousandths on that one. I'm getting 65 thousandths on this one. So that's got to be pretty close. So I'm going to find me a drill bit that's as close to 65 thousandths as I can, and we'll go from there. So I was just looking through my scrap drill bits there, drill bit box. They aren't in any kind of identification, and this appears to be a 1/16 drill bit because it measures 64 thousandths. Right on the money. So that's a thousandth under what those things measure, which should be good. That way we can press fit it in there. Hopefully that's going to work. Now the problem I've got with this is a great big drill with the big bulky head isn't going to get me down here like I need to be down here. So that's not going to work. We'll have to come up with another solution for that. I thought I was going to have to go get my flexible, I've got a flexible one of these, you know, a long flexible, I can't think what you call it now, chuck on the end. And that would be smaller and I could get it in here, but it appears like this is going to work fine too. So I think I'll just go for the simpler solution here and just do it this way. The trick of this is to get it in the right place without it wandering on me, and I think I'm going to do that by marking a spot first with this and making a little punch mark. The only thing you got to be concerned about that is that this literally the binding can be so brittle that you could split the binding. So I'm just twisting it here, trying to get a little mark made where it'll go in. Now the other problem I better make sure of is that will it be low enough here so that it's not above the fretboard. I don't really want it to be above the fretboard either. Probably have to go a hair lower than where I'm making my mark there. Make a new mark right next to it, but just a little lower. And I've got my mark here, and I'm coming right over that mark into that, and we'll see what happens. I'm going to slow this thing way down. Ordinarily it's spinning really, really fast. And we'll just see if we can come in right over our mark into that spot. I think we did it. I also have to watch that this doesn't scratch the top, so that's what I'm doing here. I think that's plenty deep because these pins are not very long on here. I'm pretty sure that's deep enough. I'm going to see how deep I've got it there. I would say we're real close, and that probably didn't go in all the way anyway because it gets big on the end. But I think we're good and close there, so I'm going to call that good. Now I've got a mark here,
and a mark here, and I want to get this one in the same height spot. The proof is right here. I'm also looking at this to make sure that this mechanism is working right, and it appears to be. It appears that it's working okay, so we're going to call that good for now. I'm going to open it up a little bit. I don't want any extra friction on anything at the moment. Let's see if I can get this all to go. It's like it all has to kind of go at the same time, or not at all. It's going, but I think maybe those holes are a little tight. This nail here is sticking out past the plastic, and I don't like that. It's just not right. I don't know if someone put that in there, but it's just not right. Okay, I see what it is. It's sliding. So I'm going to put some super glue on that and make sure that it doesn't slide. They're cleaned out, so hopefully it'll go in there this time. Okay, getting it all lined up. Hopefully they don't get pushed back out this time. Hopefully the holes will open up, or let the nails go in. Nope, it's not working. It's pushing the nails through the plastic again. So I'm going to have to make the hole just a slight bit bigger in order for this to work well. I just didn't want to do that because I really want it to be a very tight fit, so it's not going to be coming loose on the guy. I'm going to really push on the head of this nail since it's sticking through, and I think it's going to go. There it went. Perfect. Just perfect. I'm real happy with that. Just couldn't hardly be better. Now we'll tighten this down, and I think we're good. I think we got it. Look how good that turned out. It's really nice against the fretboard. It just happens to be sticking between these two things here. It could rattle potentially. I don't think it's going to. It just happens to be in the right spot there where I don't think it's going to rattle. And we're going to tune this up now and play it and see what we get. Before I got too far ahead of myself, I went back and I put the felt over the end of this and wrapped it around. And now I'm taking the same sticky felt and I'm putting it on the inside of the pick cover here. I always put it out on this outer end because that's where the last place the strings is going to make contact, and just, you know, where you don't see it from the outside, but it's covering that whole area. That sandwiches the strings between the felt and really does a nice job. Now we're going to tune it up and let's see what this baby sounds like. I was about to call this done. I've got her tuned up, got the action incredibly low, and it seems to play pretty well without buzzing. But then I noticed how grimy this was right along this area of the fretboard extension. It's really grimy looking. I just wiped it dry and you can see the dirt coming off of it. So I'm just going to take and clean that up a little bit because you can see it. And so I'm just going to dip this into some warm soapy water and we're going to clean that up. So you've seen it before, and hopefully it'll look better when we do an after here. Oh yeah, that's doing a lot better now. I got it a little wetter, and I think because it's already gotten wet, that helps it, and it's wiping out a lot of it. It's not all coming out, but it's better than it did look by a long stretch. Well, you saw before of what it looked like, and now you can see it after. It's just better. It's not perfect, but it's better. Okay, so I've got the action crazy low. He wants a very low action, so It actually would hold a pick here at about the 12th fret, as you can see. So that's a 1.14 pick, which is what I usually have it holding at the 7th fret, and it's holding that at the 12th fret. So it's a little too low for me, but you know, hopefully that'll be perfect for him. And if he's got a lighter touch than me, it should work just fine. I think we've got her just about as good as it's going to get. Well, there you have it, friends. A 1924 F4 Gibson in very nice shape. Certainly used shape, but overall very, very nice mandolin. Very nice mandolin. Got a nice sound. Got a little different sound than I'm used to with the F holes, but you know, everybody likes something different, and that's what makes the world go around. Hope you enjoyed this. Tell your friends. Hey, how about a thumbs up? I could sure use that. Thank you.